sleepiness, dizziness. This is what happens when your brain is starved from oxygen.
Now, we don't know what caused this plane to veer so far off course and to eventually crash in South Dakota, but the speculation that we have heard from an expert this morning earlier told us he thinks the jet cabin rapidly decompressed, and he says if that's the case, you've got 9 to 15 seconds to get some supplemental oxygen. Does that jibe with your experience?
Well, it's sort of, yes, it does, but there's a few things about rapid decompressions, I think, that a lot of people fail to take into account. And one of them, obviously, is that in a rapid decompression, something is happening very quickly. And so basically you're going to have the altitude, whatever altitude you might be at, the pressure on the inside in the aircraft are going to attempt to equalize. And so there's going to be debris flying about the cockpit of the aircraft, and people are going to be acting very, hurriedly, obviously trying to recover control if they're losing control of the aircraft. And one of the first things they're going to want to do is try and get it down in altitude to a safer altitude where hypoxia, oxygen deprivation won't be a problem. Obviously, that didn't occur here, which kind of leads me to believe that, in all probability, there was some type of a malfunction with the oxygen system from the very beginning, and as they were ascending in altitude, it became more and more of a problem. At altitude, say 35 to 40,000 feet, you've got approximately 15 to 45 seconds to get yourself back on oxygen. Otherwise, you lose consciousness. Now, if you have a rapid decompression at that altitude, the effect will be almost immediate. You won't have any, pretty much, depending on your activity level, you'll have no time to try and recover and do anything like get on oxygen systems or anything of that nature. If you're ascending in altitude and you have a problem with your oxygen equipment system and you're not getting the proper amount of oxygen or is not getting oxygen at all as you're going up in altitude, the effects will be very slow and very insidious, and as you ascend in altitude, it'll happen a little bit more quickly. At 15 to 18,000 feet, you've got about a half hour before these effects take effect. But if you're moving up in altitude, as you ascend to 20, 25,000 feet, you have much less time. You have maybe 5 minutes, and as you get a little higher, obviously, you have just a matter of seconds. And so, as you're moving up in altitude, the effects are also moving up.
One more quick question for you, Steve. There's some valuable information in what you're saying, I think, for people who take commercial flights with regard to when the oxygen masks come down, in the unlikely event that happens, about the necessity of getting those things on in a hurry despite what may be going on in the cabin around you.
Absolutely, that is a very good point. When those masks drop down, grab a hold of it and get it on right away. You don't have a lot of time, depending upon your altitude. Certainly, if you're at 35,000 feet or better, you have between 15 and 45 seconds, depending on your activity level. 20 to 25,000 feet, you may have 5 minutes or less. And of course, lower than that, you have more time. But when those masks drop down, God forbid, make sure that you grab it as quickly as possible and get it on your face. And that's one of the reasons why also they tell you put it on yourself first and then try and help someone else if you can.
Steve Taylor, an expert on hypoxia, thank you very much for being with us and shedding some more light on this.
Thank you.
We're certainly trying to tap experts for their opinions on what may have gone wrong and what the people on board endured. As a matter of fact, we want to go out live now to Hillsborough and Captain Warren Petrie, who is with Bert Zimmerly. Go ahead, Warren.
Yeah, thanks, Elaine. And the question has come up during all of this discussion as to if this was a catastrophic decompression or decompression of some type, about how often this happens in business jets. So I'm going to pose that question to Bert Zimmerly again.
Well, I don't have the actual records that the FAA would have, but I would guess, 2 or 3 times a year an aircraft is going to have a problem. It would be interesting to know, now that this has come up, to see what the record is with corporate jets.
Now, you had talked about the possibility of door seals as one of the possible scenarios, or a window blowing out. Describe how the doors are sealed on the Lear 35.
Well, you've got a seal that looks similar to a large rubber seal that you'd find like on a refrigerator. I mean, that's as close to what a person could equate to. and the door is closed, and then that seal is inflated with air, and that forms a seal to hold the pressure in around the door.
Okay, the last question, there's been some talk about could any of the passengers attempted to fly the airplane if they had recovered first before the flight crew?
Well, it's not impossible, but without some type of flying experience and ability to use a communication set to communicate with the ground people have done these things in the past with lighter aircraft. I'm not sure that there's been any instance of anybody bringing a jet down. The speeds that you're dealing with, the complexity of the aircraft, if you stayed on the autopilot and had somebody knowledgeable on the ground communicate, and a person with a low stress level in flight might be able to do it, but the stress is going to be extremely high, and it's going to be almost impossible.
Bert, thank you very much. Elaine, that's the latest we've got from Hillsborough. Again, the FAA and TSB are going to have their hands full in trying to determine what went wrong this morning as this plane departed Florida and headed for Texas. Back to you.
They certainly are. Thank you very much. Warren Petrie from Hillsborough. And we understand that those federal officials are on the scene right now and are saying that it appears at this time, though they need to investigate further, but there is speculation that the plane's pressurization failed.
We'll have much more on this in the next half hour. We're going to be checking back in with our experts as we get more information on what happened on that flight. This flight was a big story before we found out golfer Payne Stewart was on board the plane, because there was a runaway jet loose over the Midwest flying near some population centers. As you've heard, it crashed in South Dakota carrying that famous pro golfer. We have more news to tell you about today.